Welcome to the US More News channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that Russian warships and civilian ships were attacked in the city of Sevastopol, located on the Crimean Peninsula annexed by Ukraine. Russia, on the other hand, has made a startling claim about Britain. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov made a statement about the development of the Russian-Ukrainian war. The Kiev government carried out a terrorist attack on Russian Black Sea Navy ships and civilian ships stationed in Sevastopol at 0:20 in the morning, Konashenkov said, noting that the Ukrainian attacked Russian ships. Konashenkov said that several unmanned aerial vehicles were used in the attack and all of them were destroyed. The Black Sea Fleet ships that were attacked are in the process of securing the corridors created under the grain agreement, he added. Konashenkov, English, he claimed that his military specialists were involved in the preparations for the attack, saying, "The training process of servicemen attached to the Special Center for Naval Operations was carried out in the city of Ochakiv, Mykolaiv region, Ukraine, under the guidance of British specialists," the statement said. Accusing the UK of involvement in the Nord Stream pipe explosion, Konashenkov said, too, he has been involved in the planning and execution of terrorist attacks. The UK has been involved in terrorist attacks against Russia in the Black and Baltic Seas, said Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova, and Russia has been involved in the international community, including the United Nations Security Council, UNSC. "I would like your attention, advisor to the President of Ukraine Mikhail Podolyak said on social media, but in all the occupied territories, also tell compatriots that the war has been won, the Black Sea Fleet will depart." The British Ministry of Defense denied the Russian allegations in a statement on its Twitter account. The Russian Defense Ministry is resorting to large-scale false claims in order to avoid a disastrous treatment of the illegal invasion of Ukraine. A statement came from Kiev, bombarding the world agenda while the war continues in Ukraine. Ukraine has published a bloody record of the Halloween attacks. The eyes and ears of the world are on the war that has been going on for months between Russia and Ukraine. Flash is being developed in the war, which began at 6 o'clock on February 2nd on the orders of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia has been on the defensive for some time while the Ukrainian offensive continues. While the war was changing roles, a statement came from Ukraine that bombed the world agenda. Ukraine says about 1,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in a single day. Kiev, this loss, he noted that it occurred on Sunday. In the same statement, it was emphasized that the number of Russian soldiers killed since the beginning of the war has exceeded 71,000. Zelensky promised to take back Crimea a few hours after the start of the offensive on Kherson. The recapture of Kherson also raises hope for other captured cities. In addition, capturing the city will also open the Crimean Road, which Zelensky indicated. Therefore, Kherson is also known as the key to the Crimea. Ukraine is fighting to retake the region as soon as possible and open the way for Crimea. Military experts point out that it will be more difficult to advance in the winter months. Poland is building 3 rows of barbed wire 2.5 meters high and 3 meters wide on the border with Kaliningrad, Russia. Poland is fencing its border with Russia. Polish Defense Minister Mariusz Brasak said at a press conference that the construction of barbed wire on the border with Russia's Kaliningrad region in northeastern Poland will begin today, and bomb experts from the Polish army will start working on it today. He said that it was to ensure the security of Poland and that the wire fence in question was a temporary measure until a system to control the border using electronic devices was installed. By the way, in addition to building wire mesh 2.5 meters high and 3 meters wide, a kind of fence will be decked out on the Polish side of the border to protect animals. Last year, Poland built an iron wall on its 186-kilometer border with Belarus due to the increase in illegal migration to Poland through Belarus. Ukrainian forces are resisting Russian forces in 2 cities in the east, while forces on the southern front are preparing to fight for the Kherson region. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said in a statement that he was waiting for good news from the front, but did not give details. One of the important battles will take place in Kherson. In a video he released, Zelensky said the most violent clashes occurred near the eastern suburbs of Donetsk, Avdiivka, and Bakhmut. They have been killing people there every day for months, increasing artillery fire at the highest level. Russian troops have repeatedly tried to seize Bakhmut, which is located on the main road to the Ukrainian cities of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. The battle for the city of Kherson on the Dnipro River will determine the fate of the Ukrainian hegemony in southern Russia. Ukrainian soldiers say Russian shelling has ramped up again in recent weeks. Radio conversations indicate that newly mobilized soldiers are being sent to the front, and the Russian army is being reinforced with reinforcements. Ukrainian forces successfully advanced south along the Dnipro earlier this month, but their progress appears to be slowing. Russia has evacuated civilians on the western bank of the river, but says it has no plans to withdraw its troops. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov said that rainy weather and rough terrain could prevent Kyiv from moving to Kherson, and said that the counteroffensive was becoming more difficult. Then in the northeast, Kyiv has sent another 30 armored vehicles to the UK and deployed 70 troops to train Ukrainian forces in support of the war effort, Australia has said. Defense Minister Richard Marlees told ABC television, "We know that Ukraine needs long-term assistance to be able to resolve this dispute on its own terms," he used his expression. Since the Russian military began seriously losing ground in September, Russian President Vladimir Putin has called up hundreds of thousands of Russian reserves and declared the annexation of the occupied territories by a symbolic referendum. Putin, who has repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons, last attacked Ukraine's energy infrastructure with missiles and Iranian-made drones in October. Indiscriminate attacks were carried out on civilian residential areas throughout the country. In Russia, the military also held a high-profile rehearsal for nuclear war with state television programs showing submarines, strategic bombers, and missile forces in retaliation for the nuclear attack. Russia has also claimed that Kyiv is preparing to use nuclear weapons against Russia. Western leaders are concerned that Russia could set off controlled nuclear explosions in their own country just to launch a nuclear attack on Ukraine. 6.5 months ago, he may not have thought that working in Moscow would take so long. By the way, the same applies decisively to Ukraine and the whole world. But with the financial and military support of the West, Kyiv continues to resist the Russian forces. It is difficult to say with certainty how many soldiers and civilians died on both sides, how many were forced to emigrate from Ukraine. Russian, Ukrainian, and Western sources give different information about this. Because it is true that the wounded number in the thousands and the displaced in the millions, and these numbers seem to be increasing. Russian officials say disarmament in Ukraine will not come until it achieves goals such as disarmament and the declaration of neutrality and eliminates threats to Donetsk and Luhansk. Therefore, it is unclear when peace will be achieved in the region. It seems that Moscow wants to take control of Odessa, reach the Dniester region, and take control of the territory in the north up to the Belarusian-Polish border. The mentioned scenarios involve the long-term establishment of Little Russia on the part of Ukraine. Little Russia was formed in Tsarist Russia during World War II. He has been in Ukraine since Catherine's reign. The fact that Russia achieves all these goals, and Ukraine continues to resist, largely depends on whether the West will continue to support Kyiv. Therefore, from the very beginning, Kyiv sought maximum support from the West and wants to tighten sanctions against Russia. While Moscow is looking for new Sundays to avoid the impact of all these sanctions, it is also looking for ways to make them unenforceable. In addition, Russian officials say that regardless of the level of Western aid to Ukraine, they will achieve their ultimate goal. At the same time, the international community is more interested in the outcome of the conflict than in frontline deployments. The first and most important is the food crisis and the energy crisis. September, August, and Sunday, thanks to the efforts of Turkey, Ukrainian grain was shipped to the international market and continues to be shipped. But this year, 25% less land was created in Ukraine than last year. Although Russia's October area is not decreasing, most grain-producing countries have decided to limit exports in the next few years. Therefore, foreign countries, especially those that are dependent on wheat, will face even greater problems in the coming years. Meanwhile, it seems that there will be a decimation in the energy sector much earlier in the coming months. Some countries do not want to pay for the gas they buy in rubles, others are looking for alternative sources of supply, leaving Russian gas under neighborly pressure. Abandonment of Nord Stream 2 is not. We want to be hesitant to gain customers in the energy sector who will lose the EU, temporary shutdown of Nord Stream 1, etc. This will have several implications for the EU. EU countries saved energy and had to start buying compressed gas, which is much more expensive than in the USA. As a matter of fact, rising energy prices due to aid to Ukraine and sanctions imposed on Russia have increased the reaction of public opinion. Interestingly, even the countries of the former Eastern Bloc, which have been ridiculing the most important EU countries against Russia for years, are organizing protests and criticizing the Russian policy of their governments. Hungary was determined to maintain ties with Russia, but protests were held in Prague, which were attended by more than 70,000 people. These protests are expected to spread further in the winter. Therefore, we can say that the winter months will be the most important factor on the Russian-Ukrainian front. All this will undermine European governments in the face of opposition. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to be informed of the developments at the speed of light.